Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening. Just yesterday, Rockman Corner, the website talking all about Mega Man, released not one but two different prototypes of Mega Man X7, a press demo version of the game as well as an E3 demo of the game. These are two prototypes that have never seen the light of day before, so it's absolutely something fun to talk about because they do have some fundamental changes compared to what you would get with retail Mega Man X7, and honestly some of them are for the better. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But if you know me and you know the channel, you know I absolutely advocate for pretty much every single bit of preservation we can get. There's so many different interesting development builds of games you love out there, some of which have been dumped and some of which haven't, so getting something new is always cause for celebration. And honestly, while I think Mega Man X7 is a good, not great game, seeing the differences and changes in these earlier builds is always fun. And it was definitely of an era when they were trying to mix both the traditional 2D gameplay of Mega Man together with 3D, and while some of it works, some of it can be a little bit janky. But honestly, getting these two demos is a ton of fun, and at least for the press demo, there's going to be a lot of fundamental differences and a lot of new levels that you really didn't see in the actual retail build. I'll show you the E3 demo a little bit later in the video because while it is different, it's not quite as different. Now this press build has absolutely no cutscenes in it whatsoever. It just basically jumps from set piece to set piece, level to level, with absolutely no story and obviously a different playable character. And it's always fun to see how games get made, or like I like to say on the channel, find out how the sausage gets made, taking a look behind the curtain of all of these different builds, because a lot of times they'd have press events like this, kind of showcasing games that were coming, so magazines could write previews and websites could write previews, but these builds would always get changed long before the games would ever release. And I can't remember from retail X7, but I know some of the sound effects, at least in this build, are 100% from Sonic Adventure. Maybe they were from a sound library, or maybe they just borrowed something, but some of the sound effects, if you listen closely, especially when I give you the soundtrack sample, are dripped directly from Sonic Adventure, at least to my ear. But again, it's fun to see games before they were actually released, because this generation, they were trying to figure out how to take 2D franchises and move them into full 3D. Some games are more successful than others. Obviously, we had the Mega Man Legends games as well, which are a ton of fun, but are way more light role-playing games compared to the action platformers we got on stuff like Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn. I've absolutely always loved the X series, X4 on Saturn being one of my favorites of all time. So I did play X7 when it came up back in the day, and I remember thinking to myself, it was a decent game, it did give me some fun, but otherwise it wasn't really hitting with me. And you will see I use save states here. I am playing this via emulation because it's just a file set, and you really don't get any lives, especially in the E3 demo. Once you die, you basically go back to the beginning, same with the press event demo. And right now we are playing the press event version of the game, and it's areas like this where the game kind of felt like maybe it was trying a little bit too hard to be full 3D. I would have loved for them just to have kept the 3D graphics, but kept everything on the 2D plane. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, was this something you were into back in the day, or was this something that really didn't work for you? Because I'd say here, at least, when the screen locks off, the 3D elements, that full range of motion, do work, but when you actually kind of have to navigate around the world, when you have full open 3D, it feels a little bit janky, and definitely the camera a little bit worse for wear here in this press demo event. I did check out some of the other versions of the game, and I didn't have as many problems with the camera. But even platforming like this, as the camera tilts itself down, sure, it's easy to jump, but you're not really seeing much in front of you. So that's always been something I've struggled with X7. It kind of doesn't give you a good enough view to see what you're actually doing. And you'll see here we do have this wall coming in towards us, and at least on the E3 version of the game, if it closes, you need to wait like 2 minutes for it to be able to activate and open up again. So there's definitely a lot of weirdness in both of these builds. But you'll see here as we run forward, normally you would have a cutscene, but the game is just going to basically freeze and then bring in this character. So it's really interesting what is strung together and what isn't strung together here in the E3 demo. And at the beginning, you do get a menu of 3 different levels you can play, so you can kind of pop around and see what's going on. But I'm going to do the soundtrack sample now. I'm not sure if there's any differences in the audio or not, so listen to the track and you tell me if it sounds anything different than retail X7. 45 seconds, and I'll be right back to show you a lot more of the prototypes.
説明してもらおうか。
分かったよ。後で必ずね。でも先にあいつをなんとかしなくちゃ。 はここは任せるよ。でももしもの時は僕を
So that was the E3 demo right there and the audio, and you tell me what you think, both of the sound quality as well as whether or not that was actually in X7, because it has been some years since I played it. And moving back over to the press event, this is an area which apparently is not in the actual retail game. You have a radar at the bottom and you have 5 minutes to try to kill 30 different targets, and I would say this is an area in which the 3D just doesn't really work that well. Sure, you have the shadow underneath your playable character, but actually circumnavigating around the screen here just feels a little bit clunky, and I would say, especially on some of the bigger enemies you're going to see coming out of the lava, this auto lock-on mechanic definitely isn't fully developed in this prototype, and that's not really strange whatsoever. A lot of times you're going to see gameplay mechanics that you remember, they're just not going to be 100% fully realized. I do like the kind of arena outlet here, but you'll see this one dragon in the lava just absolutely can't seem to lock onto him. The lock-on appears and disappears, and no matter how many times I try to charge shot and lock on, just don't really seem to be able to hit him. Maybe I'm just missing something, but more likely it's the fact that the prototype just doesn't have finalized code yet, so areas like this are going to prove to be a little bit challenging, and maybe they did remove this from the final game because it just wasn't working too well for the developers either, because so often you're going to see completely different levels and cut content in prototypes that never make it over to the retail version of the game, and that is why I always love going through stuff like this and giving it a showcase on the channel, not just because you get to play a different version of a game you may love, but because advocating for the preservation of these things is always important. Every single prototype out there that people have in collectors' hands should be dumped and shared with everyone because it's just more fun. Well, I understand that I don't own everything and I can't decide what people should do with stuff. For me personally, anything I've ever had that other people don't, I made sure to release so everyone can enjoy. Now, which is a stupid jump there, I should have realized the distance was too far. And as we get into the third stage here of the press event, when you get into the giant mech, I will say this is definitely a level where it is not fully coded out. The movement in this mech is absolutely janky. It is stiff, it is stilted, the turn just basically seems like it stutters the entire mech. There's definitely problems in here that would get ironed out on the actual release. And these things don't seem to have been data mined yet as well, so there could be even more levels in the prototype versions of this game that just aren't selectable via the menu, and I'm sure people that are out there that love to take apart PlayStation 2 discs and do development on them might find new levels and new content, because again, this has been out for all of about 24 hours as of the time that you're watching this video, if you watch it on the date it releases. But it's so much fun to just take a look at what's going on here, and I would like to say that I do appreciate how well the graphics translate over to 3D, at least in the colorful aspect nature of them. The 2D games are always absolutely gorgeous with their sprites, but I like that the developers at Capcom brought over the overall colorways and really kept this to be a very bright game. It just works, and it looks great here on PlayStation 2 or PCSX2 as I enhance it for the video. But one more soundtrack sample, go ahead and listen for 35 seconds, see if you can hear any differences, and I'll be back to show you a little bit more footage of the prototypes. So yeah, if you hear any differences whatsoever, leave me a comment down below, and just be aware that if you do load up these games, you're going to get different intro cut sequences in the FMVs as well. One of them is going to be a preview for the game that looks like it's supposed to be in a magazine, and the other one's going to be like a temp introductory cut sequence that seems to be different than the actual X7 release. But that is always the fun thing about prototypes. You get to take a peek behind the curtain and see how these games ended up getting made. And while again, X7 definitely isn't the most successful Mega Man game out there, it is a lot of fun, and for people that love Mega Man, I'm sure you played it at least more than once. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me, what did you think about X7 when it released? Because for me personally, it was fun, I had a decent time with it, but it really made me crave some more 2D games, and I probably played X4 on my Saturn directly after that. But it's always great to get new prototypes, and Rockman Corner released 2 of them yesterday, and that's always such a fun event when you get to actually get these prototypes be playable and enjoyable. And hopefully we get some more Mega Man prototypes out there one day, and I really hope Mega Man Legends 3, if it really exists in some collector's hands, finally sees the light of day, because that is definitely the #1 canceled Mega Man game for me personally. But short of that, I left a link in the description below to the article on Rockman Corner where you can find these things, so go ahead and play them and enjoy. But short of that, we're done, and I can see you guys next time. Bye-bye.